But why don't we skip the foreplay and go right to the sex and outlaw vertical integration for Part D?
Welcome back to Congress Unpacked, where we break down the heated exchanges, bold questions, and sharp moments inside the halls of Congress. If you want straight talk without the spin, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Now let's dive in. Senator John Kennedy wasted no time grilling witnesses during a Senate hearing on pharmacy benefit managers, better known as PBMs. Kennedy starts by pointing out a staggering fact: 3 massive PBMs control 80% of the market, and they're vertically integrated. In plain English, the same companies that negotiate drug prices are also tied to the insurers and pharmacies. Kennedy presses Professor Sood for a straight answer. Are consumers paying higher prices because of this setup? At first, Sood tries to hedge. Kennedy cuts him off. They're either higher or they're lower. There's no such thing as a partial price. Finally, Sood admits, yes, Medicare Part D premiums are higher because of vertical integration.
Professor Sood, as I understand it, 80% of the PBM market is controlled by 3 companies, 3 PBMs, that are vertically integrated. Is that right?
That is correct.
Does your research show that the prices that consumers pay are higher than they would be if those companies were not vertically integrated?
So my research on Medicare Part D...
Give me an answer.
Partially.
What do you mean partially? They're either higher or they're lower. There's no such thing as a partial price.
What I find is that Medicare Part D premiums are higher as a result of vertical integration.
Okay.
And Kennedy? He's had enough nibbling around the edges. In his words, why don't we skip the foreplay and go right to the sex and outlaw vertical integration? That's Kennedy's blunt style, cutting through the academic jargon and going right for the jugular. The discussion then shifts to fiduciary responsibility. Kennedy pushes the point. PBMs should be legally obligated to put patients first, not just protect their bottom line. He schools the witness on what a fiduciary really means, someone with a legal duty to act in their client's best interest, not a middleman playing games.
Well, then why don't we, I'm all for transparency, Mr. Chairman, I want to say that. But why don't we skip the foreplay and go right to the sex and outlaw vertical integration for Part D? Would you accept an amendment to your bill like that?
I don't want to answer that question right now because I want to study that.
Would you support that, Mr. Scott? Let me just guess what your answer is.
No, sir, and I can explain why.
No, you speak Sanskrit. I mean, I'm sorry. You know, you're good at it, and I know your job is to protect PBMs. And I might tell us, I don't think PBMs are the only ones at fault, but you don't have unclean hands. Professor Sood, you say PBMs ought to be fiduciaries. To whom?
To both the plan and their members.
Well, what if the plan and the members' interests diverge? Who are they fiduciaries to?
Ultimately, in principle, they should be fiduciaries to the members.
Okay.
So, for example, ERISA makes...
I get it.
Okay.
I get it. Mr. Chairman, again, why don't we skip the foreplay and go right to the sex? Why don't we just amend your bill to require that PBMs have a fiduciary obligation to plan members?
Well, I think that's been suggested, and I think there's part of that in our legislation, but probably not fully enough to satisfy you.
Well,
so let me look at what you want to add to it.
Okay. I mean, I'm not criticizing your bill. I don't want my office to end up in Bethesda. So I'm not criticizing your bill. I like transparency. But we're just nibbling around the edges here. And with respect, Mr. Scott, your definition of a fiduciary is wrong. A fiduciary isn't somebody that controls the decision. You know that, and I know that. A fiduciary is somebody who has a legal obligation to give his client the best advice and to do what's best for his client. It doesn't replace agent with principal or vice versa. You know that, and I know that. Well, you need to talk to your lawyers. I may be wrong, but I doubt it.
Then, in classic Kennedy fashion, he turns to the core problem. PBMs, he suggests, are encouraging drug companies to inflate list prices so they can inflate their rebates. Kennedy doesn't mince words. That's illegal as hell. Professor Sudd adds a key recommendation. Patients should pay their share based on the post-rebate price, not the inflated sticker price. That change alone could immediately cut out-of-pocket costs, especially for cancer patients facing crushing drug bills.
Let me go back to Professor Sudd. Tell me 2 things you would do tomorrow to fix PBMs and result in lower prices for consumers.
So I think the 2 things I would do is...
Very specific.
Yes. I would implement price transparency so that everyone knows what they're paying. And
Okay, price transparency just tells us who's screwing up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the fiduciary responsibility says, if you're getting screwed, I can take you to court. So I would do those 2 things. And those are, I think, better than banning particular practices, because otherwise it's whack-a-mole. You ban spread pricing and something else will show up a year from now.
I got 29 seconds. Do you have any other suggestions? I appreciate your straight talk.
The other thing we can do is, what I recommended is pass-through of rebates to patients. So suppose a drug...
Say that again?
So pass-through of rebates to patients. So for example, the list price of a drug is $50,000. But the rebate on the drug is $40,000. So when a patient is paying cost sharing, suppose 10%, they should be paying on the post-rebate price, so which is the $50,000 less the $40,000 rebate. Right now, what's happening is patients are paying cost sharing on the $50,000. So this would immediately lower patient out-of-pocket costs. So as Dr. Kircher said, for the cancer patients.
So you're saying the number after us, the PBMs are jacking up, are encouraging manufacturers to jack up the list price so they can jack up their rebates.
And that
is that right?
Yes.
That's illegal.
And the jacked up.
That's illegal.
Yes. I don't know about that, but it.
I do.
Okay.
It's illegal as hell.
Yeah.
So here's the bottom line. PBMs were supposed to lower drug costs, but Kennedy argues they're doing the opposite, profiting off higher prices through rebates and vertical integration. The same companies setting drug prices are also running insurance plans and pharmacies. That's a built-in conflict of interest. The fixes: force PBMs to act as fiduciaries, pass rebates directly to patients, and maybe even ban vertical integration altogether. But the real test is whether Congress will actually stand up to some of the most powerful players in healthcare. For patients, especially those battling cancer, this isn't policy talk, it's survival. Kennedy's blunt warning says it all. Either PBMs serve patients, or they serve themselves. So, what do you think? Real reform ahead, or just more Washington noise? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe to Congress Unpacked, hit like, and share to spread the word. Until next time, stay sharp, stay informed.